Hello and welcome to Shellac Finishes. It's been a while since I made a video, and this video is about finishing a dining top table that I've made for myself. It's about 5.5 feet wide and about 3.5 feet, and I'll be using Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on it, and I'll show you all the steps I go through, right from sanding, which is preparation, all the way down to patting on Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed. I'm making this video because I've got a lot of questions from people about how do I apply Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed via the patting method on a large tabletop. This video is going to show you just that. The first step for the finishing process starts with sanding to produce a flat and even surface. The finish will simply follow the surface topography. Hence, any surface aberrations will eventually show up after finish application. Absolutely no shortcuts here. I usually go up to 220 grit. So after a close inspection, I found a few spots that needed some sanding. So I was doing it with the random orbital sander. Now that I have the whole surface sanded to 220 grit, I'm ready for the pore filling process. First, let me show you the ingredients that I'll be using for finishing this tabletop. I have 220 grit walnut sawdust that I got from my random orbital sander when I was sanding this tabletop, 4F pumice, shellac, Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed, and the catalyst that goes along with it. I'll divide the process into 4 parts. The first being preparation, where the tabletop is sanded to 220 grit. I was using a random orbital sander, and now I have made certain that there are no scratches, dings, or dents on this tabletop. The second step will be pore filling, and for that I'll be using the walnut sawdust, the pumice, as well as the shellac. The third step will be the application of shellac, which will act as a buffer between the pore filler and Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed, as well as a foundation for Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed to sit on. And the fourth and final step will be the application of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed. So I'll be making the paste in this beaker. I have some shellac that I've poured into a bottle for easy accessibility. I have the 220 grit sawdust and the pumice. I'll take equal parts of the pumice and the sawdust first, about equal parts. So 2 heaped teaspoons of the pumice and the same with the sawdust. Give it a mix and then put in some shellac. The amount of shellac that you add in here is the kind of consistency that you are looking for. I'm looking for a loose kind of paste that is easily spreadable. I think I need a little bit more. And if it gets a little too thin, you can always add a little bit of sawdust or pumice. I always like to go in equal parts, just approximately. So that's the consistency that I am looking for, kind of easy. So I'm going to start in this small section, and I'll be doing it in sections throughout the tabletop just to keep everything manageable. I'll be using this application tool. It's just a piece of plastic you can buy at the hardware store. Give this a good mix. And then take the spreader and start spreading it perpendicular to the grain. Pressing the pumice and the sawdust in. And then as the putty starts to dry, scrape off the excess. And all of this can be reused again. Now I'll be moving on to the section over here, and then over here, and so on and so forth. And as the paste starts to dry up, I use it till the point where it's difficult to move it around. And I think I'm reaching that point. Simply gather it up, pour it back into the container, mix it with the rest, and if it does thicken over time, I either add a little bit of shellac, and if I have a lot of shellac in there, is something that I don't want, so I can even add a little bit of alcohol. So it's been about 4 days now since it has been drying, and today I'm going to sand with 320 grit. And as you can see with a close-up shot, that the pores, I've already done this side. Maybe just clean it up a little bit for you. So as you can see, the pores are now filled, and I got a smooth flat surface that is 320 grit sandpaper. The tabletop has been sanded with 320 grit after the pore filling has been completed, and I have wiped it clean and made sure that there are no dings or dents or any kinds of defects on the tabletop. Now I'm ready for starting the finishing steps. The first thing I'm going to do is use some orange shellac, and I've always done so while using walnut because I think orange shellac pops the grain out, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'll be applying it with a pad, which I've used in the past, along with some denatured alcohol. And once I have a few coats of orange shellac on the surface, I'll be moving to the next step, which is sealing with shellac. I'll be using this pad. It's essentially a ball of cheesecloth on the inside and 100% linen on the outside. I just form it into a ball that fits easily between my fingers. Put some orange shellac on it. With some alcohol. Work it in and start with this end. Applying orange shellac on walnut is my personal preference. You may choose not to do it. I just believe that it makes the walnut look really good once the grain gets popped. I'll be doing this side first and then moving on to the next side and doing it over there. Since I'm not French polishing, I'm applying the shellac as well as the denatured alcohol on the outside of the pad. I also do the sides. When using shellac for padding, I always use a 1 pound cut solution. Heavier cuts tend to make the pad sticky and unmanageable. A 1 pound cut is 1 ounce of shellac flakes dissolved in a cup of denatured alcohol. For ease of measurement, I just take a handful of shellac flakes and dissolve it in a cup of alcohol. And since I'm using a pad, I can move in any direction I want, randomly going over the whole surface, spreading the shellac evenly. So I've been going about doing this for about an hour now. I have a pretty good coverage of the orange shellac on it. I'm also using oil for lubricating my pad, which is essential when applying shellac. I am using camellia oil since I have it. You can use olive oil or baby oil, which is available at your pharmacy. The oil is for lubrication of the pad only. The tabletop has been drying for about 2 days now, and today I'm going to start the process of sealing with Seal-Lac. If you choose not to go through this step, you can definitely avoid it and move from preparation into sealing with Seal-Lac. Because it's a large surface and I need several coats of Seal-Lac over it, I'm going to use a foam brush to apply about maybe 4, maybe 5 coats, and then I'll come back with a pad and even everything out. I've got Seal-Lac in this bottle and I'll be using a foam brush. All I do is dip into the Seal-Lac, start a little bit away from the edge, and my next is overlapping by about 1/4 of an inch. And again, I'll be doing this section first and then moving on to the other side. And since I'm walking, I can already see that I've left some of these spots off, but I'm going to come back to it later on. Moving on to the other side. I'll let this one coat dry for about an hour, and then I'm going to come back and apply another coat, and so on and so forth. So before moving on to the application of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed, I thought it would be a good idea to level sand the whole surface, which had been applied with Seal-Lac, And so I proceeded to do that with a random orbital sander with 400 grit sanding disc. And then I noticed that some of the pores were not filled correctly. So I went ahead and applied a very thin layer of the pore filler, which was pumice and sawdust, which you had seen previously. Let it dry. And now I'm in the process of sanding it down with 600 grit sandpaper. And I'm using the Super Acrylic sandpaper, which I've come to like lately. It's a little bit pricey, but it does the job well. And no, they're not sponsors of my website, just to let you know. So once I'm done sanding the whole surface, wipe it clean, apply a few more layers of Seal-Lac, let it dry, and then I'll move on to the application of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed. Hey, welcome back once again. My intention was to let it dry for about 4 or 5 days and then come back with the application of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed. But as things happened, it started raining and the humidity was on the higher side, so I let it sit for a longer period of time because high humidity is never good for any kind of finishing anyways. So now it's been about a week and a half or thereabouts, and I'm ready to put on Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on this. Before I begin, a word about the Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed that I have in this bottle. I took 56 grams of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed and mixed in 8 grams of RL Cure, which is the catalyst, which gives me a 7:1 ratio. And that gives me a total of about 64 grams. And then I added 30 grams of denatured alcohol to that mixture. So what I have in this bottle is a 50% diluted Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed finish mixture that I'll be applying on this table. I'm going to section off this table into 6 equal parts, 1, 2, and 3, and then from the other side the same. So I have this pad, and this is the same pad I was using for application of Seal-Lac. Since Seal-Lac and Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed are compatible, I'm going to be using this pad. 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1 is that this mixture has a pot life of about 10 hours. So anything that is left over at the end of the day today will be discarded, and I'll be making a new batch for tomorrow. Also, since this has a pot life, this pad will also be discarded by the end of the day today, and I'll be making a new pad tomorrow. It's the same pad, cheesecloth inside and linen outside. Just flatten it down like so. I have denatured alcohol with me too. Charge my pad with Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed. And as I said, I'm going to divide this into 3 sections. That is my first section. Oops. So even a little bit of spillage really doesn't matter, as you can see. And this is the last section on this side. Sides. And now I'll move on to the other side. This method of padding gives me thicker coats, and so I can build up the finish really fast. And as you can see, the pad is always moving when it's on the surface. Since this was the first coat, it dried really fast, and now I'm going to go on to the second coat, and this time I'm going to start from the top and move down, versus what I had done previously. If you saw, I had started at the bottom and moved up. Moving to the other side. Now that I've done one coat, or actually two coats on it, I'm going to wait for about 45 minutes to an hour, let it dry, and then come back and do exactly the same. And I'll keep doing this till I have the thickness of finish that I'm looking for. So I was on my fourth coat, and I did not wait too long after the third coat. And when I was putting on my coat number 4, I took off some of the finish from coat number 3, as you can see over here. So that's something one has to be careful about. Even though it feels kind of dry to touch, it's not really dry, because the underside of that coat and the previous coat are still curing and bonding. So a little more time is required once we reach coat number 4, 5, and beyond. So today I'm at day 3. What did I do on day 2? Well, on day 1, I had shown you how I had made a boo-boo over here, where I had taken off the finish from a previous coat because it looked dry, but it wasn't really dry. So practically all day yesterday I spent fixing the spot over here, and there was some over here, some over here, and it looks decent as of now. So I've started the process of applying more coats of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed now, and I'm going to wait for at least an hour and a half in between coats, just to be on the safe side. So a lesson learned. I was a little impatient, but that's what happens. I'm using the same dilution, which is 50%, which I made today with a new pad. This sort of padding entails a lot of thick coats that I'm applying, but that's okay, because after this has cured, I'll be sanding it with starting, I believe, with 600 grit and going all the way to probably 4,000 or maybe 8,000 grit if I need to. get a nice flat, even surface. So the question is, how did I fix the mistake that I had made on day one? And the answer is pretty simple. I just applied coat after coat of the Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on the affected areas and was able to bring it up to the same level as the rest of the surface. I do see a little bit of, for example, over here, a little bit of roughness, but I think that's going to be taken care of once I sand the surface after cure. So it's been about 8 days since my last application of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on the tabletop, and what I noticed was that, the spots where I had goofed up were still not exactly how I wanted them to be. So what I did was I took my random orbital sander with a 600 grit pad and level sanded the whole surface. And now I'm going to put on a few more coats of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed, but this time what I have over here is 100% diluted solution. So I took 42 grams of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed finish. I added 6 grams of RL Cure, and then I added 48 grams of denatured alcohol. So that gives me a 100% diluted Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed solution. I also have some denatured alcohol that I'll be using and a pad. I chose to use 100% diluted mixture since I already have enough buildup of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed from the previous applications. The thin mixture also gives me the ability to build up a smooth, flat, and even coat. Along with adding Royal-Lac, I am also adding denatured alcohol to the pad to keep it moist so that it glides easily over the surface. Now I'll move on to the other side and do the same. Do the sides. And now I'm going to wait for about 45 minutes to an hour and come back and put on another coat. From previously, I've learned that waiting at least an hour or maybe even more after several coats is a better idea. Well, it's been about 2.5 weeks since I put the last coat of Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on the tabletop. I just got busy with other projects, and today I'm sanding with 600 grit sandpaper on my sander. After this, I'll be moving up to 1000 grit on the sander, and then after the 1000, I'll be hand sanding with 3000 grit and 5000 grit. One thing that I want to point out over here is that when using a sander, or even by hand sanding itself, one has to be very careful about the edges, because a little bit of aggressive sanding on the edges is going to abrade the finish really fast. So what I'm doing is keeping a border of about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch all around the tabletop, and I'm going to finish that by hand once I'm done with the sander. So I've been sanding with 3000 grit, which is the last grit I'll be sanding with. I had said previously that I'm going to go up till 5000 grit, but I have my doubts about that because the 5000 grit is not available in the dry sanding super acrylics sandpaper. So I'm going to stick with 3000, and then I'll be using a swirl remover or a polishing compound to get the final shine. So I decided on using Rupus DA Fine High Performance Fine Polishing Compound, which is from this company, and I was told that this has the capacity to remove 3000 grit scratch marks. And I also have my orbital sander with a foam pad, and so I'm going to start the polishing now. Note, I am not applying any downward pressure on the sander, simply holding it so that the compound may do its job. That's a very good shine. I'm impressed. A little bit of work, and I should be able to do the whole table. Once I'm done, I'll show it to you. This is really nice. So initially I was using the fine polishing compound, and once I was done with that side, I noticed those really fine scratches, those squiggly lines that a sander leaves behind. I had to get rid of those. So I moved to the coarse polishing compound. I plan to do the whole tabletop with it first, and then move back to the fine, and I'll come back to you with the results. Here is the final product. The tabletop has been mounted on its base and is in use every day. Now that you know how to use Royal-Lac Post Catalyzed on a large furniture project, give it a try on your next project. Feel free to email with questions anytime. I am here to help. See you again.